She sat across from her father's most feared lieutenant and slid a juice box across the table. "You're going to tell me where my brother is," she said. "I have snacks and absolutely nowhere to be." What nobody knew was that she was already 3 steps ahead. Her brother had left her a message that everyone else mistook for a child's drawing on the refrigerator. Sua knew it was a map, because they had invented that code together when she was 4. Welcome to Black Silk Stories, the home of Afro-Korean stories that hit different. Subscribe, drop a comment, and do not go anywhere. This is only the beginning. The conference room on the 2nd floor of the Josian mansion was not designed for children. Everything in it said so. The obsidian table that stretched the length of a small classroom, the high-back chairs in black leather, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul like a quiet declaration of ownership. The room smelled of cedarwood and cold ambition. Even the light was serious. None of it intimidated Sua Josian in the slightest. She sat at the head of the table in a rose gold silk dress, white pearl buttons running from collar to waist, a delicate ruffle at the hem, her 2 braids wrapped in rose gold ribbon and tiny white beads, her white leather Mary Janes dangling several inches above the floor. Her pink quilted backpack, monogrammed in gold thread, sat open beside her like a briefcase. Across from her, Ri Sung-jin had not moved since she walked in. He was her father's longest-serving lieutenant, charcoal 3-piece suit, silver lapel pin, hands flat on the table. A man whose stillness was itself a kind of language. He had sat across from prosecutors, rivals, men who arrived with intentions they didn't survive. He had never once in his career felt underprepared. He felt underprepared now. "Miss Sua." His voice was its usual measured register. "Your father's meetings are." "I'm not here for my father's meeting." She reached into the backpack and produced a juice box. Strawberry. Slid it across the obsidian table toward him with the unhurried confidence of someone making an opening offer. "I'm here for mine." He looked at the juice box. She produced her own grape, stabbed the straw in with one clean motion and took a long deliberate sip. Outside, Seoul moved through its morning. Enormous, indifferent, luminous. Inside the conference room, the silence had weight. She reached into her backpack again and placed a Ziploc bag of honey butter crackers on the table. She slid 3 toward him. He didn't take them. She took one for herself, unhurried, and while she chewed she opened her Hello Kitty diary. White cover, gold lock, the small key resting on a delicate chain at her throat, and turned it to face him. On the page, copied in her careful 7-year-old hand, was a drawing. A crescent moon. A small star in the upper corner. A fish facing left. A crown at the bottom. And at the center, a clock with no hands. Ri Sung-jin's eyes moved across it slowly. His face gave nothing. "It's a child's drawing," he said. "It's a map." She turned the diary back toward herself. Kim drew the original on the back of a receipt and stuck it to the refrigerator with the pineapple magnet. Everyone walked past it this morning. "My mother, the staff, Mr. Beck, all of them." She looked up. Nobody stopped. "Because it looks like something I drew." Which is exactly why he drew it that way. "The moon means he's okay." She touched each symbol as she spoke, her small finger moving with the certainty of someone reading a language they were born into. "The star means look closer. The fish facing left means follow the water, west, always west in our code. The crown means it concerns the family." She looked up. "And the clock with no hands means time is running out." The room was very quiet. Ri Sung-jin studied her, this small, composed child in rose gold silk, grape juice in hand, diary on the table, and felt the specific, disorienting sensation of a conversation that had escaped his control before it began. "How old were you when he taught you this?" 4. She said it simply. "He said the most important messages are the ones that look like nothing. He said someday it might matter." She closed the diary. He was right. Sung-jin leaned back. The chair registered the shift with a quiet creak. "Miss Sua." He chose each word carefully. "There are things happening in this family that are not appropriate for the Hangang." She said it quietly, watching his face. Something moved behind his eyes. Fast. Gone. But she saw it. "West Bank," she added. His jaw tightened by a fraction so small that only someone who had been studying his face for the last 15 minutes would have caught it. She had been studying his face for the last 15 minutes. "You already know," she said. It wasn't an accusation. Just a door opening. "You've known since last night." You came to this room because my father sent you and you were hoping I would ask something small so you could say something small back and we could both leave pretending. She looked at him steadily across the obsidian table, across the honey butter crackers, across the untouched strawberry juice box. But Kim left that message for me. Not from my father. Not for you. For me. Because he knew I would read it, and he knew I would come find someone who knew the rest. She picked up her pen. So tell me the rest. The silence that followed was the kind that precedes a decision. Sungjin looked at the window, at the city, at the skyline that the Josian name was threaded through like wire through stone. Then he looked back at the child across from him, at the steadiness in her eyes, at the diary, at the drawing she had reproduced from memory with perfect accuracy. He picked up one of the honey butter crackers, ate it slowly. The Hangang, he said. Quiet. Final. Like a door opening from his side. West Bank. There is a boathouse. Old. Not on any registered property document connected to this family. Kim went there voluntarily. Nobody took him. He chose to disappear. Her pen moved across the diary page. Why? To protect someone. Who? His eyes came back to hers. In them was something that had no place in a room like this, something almost like relief at being asked by someone who actually deserved the answer. You, he said. And your mother. The pen stopped. For the first time since she walked into the conference room, Sua Josian was quiet. Not the quiet of having nothing to say. The quiet of absorbing something that rearranges the furniture of everything you thought you understood. She looked down at the diary, at the clock with no hands. Time is running out. How long has he been there? 2 nights. Is he alone? No. 2 of our men are with him. Loyal ones. Sungjin paused. He is safe. But the reason he left, that situation has not resolved. It is becoming more complicated. What situation? He was quiet. Mr. Ri. Her voice was gentle but it didn't move. What situation? He looked at her for a long moment. Outside a cloud shifted and the light through the windows changed. And for just a second the rose gold of her dress caught it and she looked less like a child at a conference table, and more like something the room had been waiting for without knowing it. There is a man, Sungjin said carefully, who believes your mother possesses something that belongs to him. Information. Something she built, designed years before she married your father. He has been patient. He has been watching. He folded his hands on the table. Kim found out 3 days ago that this man had moved from watching to acting. So Kim moved first. He made himself visible, easy to track, easy to follow, to draw attention away from this house. Away from your mother. The room held that. Sua's face was very still. Her eyes were not. Does my mother know? Your father told her this morning. Does she know about the boathouse? No. Your father has not told her that part yet. She closed the diary, capped the pen, stood on the chair to zip her backpack and climbed down, smoothing the front of her rose gold dress with both hands. She picked up her grape juice, finished the last of it, and dropped it neatly in the bin by the door. Then she stopped. Mr. Ri. She didn't turn around. My mother is going to figure out the boathouse on her own. She's a tech expert. She's probably already running the search. A pause. When she finds it, and she will find it, my father is going to wish he told her first. She opened the door. Also. Now she turned just slightly, one hand on the door frame. You should drink your juice. Strawberry is actually really good. The door swung shut behind her with a soft, decisive click. Ri Sungjin sat alone in the conference room. Untouched juice box. 2 remaining crackers. The particular unshakable feeling of having just been the least prepared person in a room with a second grader. He picked up his phone. Dialed once. She knows everything, he said when the line connected. The code. The boathouse. The reason. A long pause. Sir, I have to say something and I need you to hear it. He looked at the door she had walked through. Your daughter is the most dangerous person in this building. Not because of what she knows. He picked up the strawberry juice box. Because of what she's about to do with it. 3 floors up, Sua stepped out of the elevator into the wide corridor. White walls, dark wood floors, a single white orchid on the console table. She walked past it without stopping. She knew exactly where she was going. Her mother's tech room was at the end of the east wing. A room that looked from the outside like a home office and from the inside like the nerve center of something vast and quietly brilliant. Victoria Josian had designed it herself. 3 monitors, a standing desk, a wall of servers behind frosted glass that hummed at a frequency just below hearing. Sua knocked twice and opened the door. Victoria was already at the monitors. Still in her deep purple wrap dress from the morning, her elegant twist beginning to unravel at the edges. Her eyes were moving across 3 screens simultaneously, satellite maps, property records, something that scrolled too fast to read. She didn't look up. I found him, Sua said. Victoria's hand stopped on the keyboard. Now she looked up. Her daughter stood in the doorway in rose gold silk, backpack on both shoulders, Hello Kitty diary held against her chest, and on her face, steady, certain, unhurried, the specific expression of someone who came with answers and was prepared to share them. Victoria pushed back from the desk slowly. Tell me. Sua walked to her mother, opened the diary, and placed it on the desk between the keyboards and the cold coffee. Hangang. West Bank. Old boathouse. Not registered to us. She looked at her mother. He went voluntarily. He went for you. And Mama. Her voice stayed level but something in it shifted, the way light shifts when a cloud moves. There's a man who wants something you built. Before us. Before Dad. Kim found out he stopped watching and started moving. So Kim made himself the target instead. Victoria Josian looked at her daughter for a very long time. Outside the frosted glass, the servers hummed. Inside, a mother looked at her child and understood. Fully, completely, with the particular ache of it, that her son had trusted his 7-year-old sister with the thing he couldn't trust anyone else with. Her eyes filled. She didn't let them spill. How did you? The refrigerator drawing. Sua touched the diary page. He made our code when I was 4, Mama. He always said someday it would matter. Victoria pulled her daughter into her arms and held her the way you hold someone when the relief and the fear arrive at exactly the same time, and you cannot tell them apart. Sua held on. Then into her mother's shoulder very quietly. We have to get to him before Dad does something that makes it worse. Victoria pulled back. Looked at her daughter's face. Then she turned back to the monitors, cracked her knuckles and began to type. Josian Park found them in the tech room. He stood in the doorway in his black suit, the one that looked like it had been built around him rather than put on, and took in the scene with the eyes of a man who had spent 30 years reading rooms for danger. 2 monitors running simultaneous property searches. A third pulling satellite imagery of the Hangang West Bank. His wife at the keyboard. Fingers moving with the quiet ferocity of someone dismantling a lock from the inside. And his 7-year-old daughter standing beside her. Rose gold dress, Hello Kitty diary open, pointing at something on the screen. Third structure from the river bend. Sue was saying. The fish faced left. West. And Kim always said follow the water to the source, not the mouth. So it's upstream, not down. Victoria's fingers didn't stop. Which puts it here. She tapped the screen. Josian Park stepped into the room. Neither of them looked up. Victoria. Give me 4 minutes. I need to speak with you. You had all morning to speak with me. Her voice was even. Precise. The tone of a woman who had decided that composure was more useful than anger, and was deploying it like a weapon. You chose to manage it instead. So now I'm finding it myself. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. He looked at Sua. She looked back at him, chin up, shoulders back, and said nothing, which somehow said everything. He walked to the chair against the wall and sat down. He did not argue. A man who had negotiated with dangerous people across dangerous tables knew when the room had already decided without him. He waited. Exactly 3 minutes and 32 seconds later, Victoria leaned back from the monitors, picked up her cold coffee, looked at it and set it back down. Boathouse. West Bank. Registered to a shell company called Heian Holdings. Dissolved 2019. But the property tax is still being paid. She turned to face her husband. Paid by an account that traces back, very quietly through 4 layers, to Lee Chong-soo. The name landed in the room like something dropped from a height. Josian Park went very still. You know that name, Victoria said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Tell me how. He was quiet for a moment. Not the quiet of hiding. The quiet of a man choosing where to begin a story he had hoped to never tell. Lee Chong-soo ran a private intelligence operation. 12 years ago. Before we married, before he approached me. He wanted access to Josian network infrastructure. I refused. He moved on. Josian Park's eyes were steady but something behind them was not. I thought he moved on. He didn't move on. Victoria's voice stayed level but her hands, resting on the desk, pressed flat. He moved to me. He's been sitting on something I built at my previous company, an encryption architecture. Something I designed before I left the industry. He believes he owns it because he funded the lab I worked in. She looked at her husband. He doesn't own it. I never signed it over. But he's been building a case for 12 years and apparently he's decided the case is ready. Sua had been very quiet through all of this. Now she spoke. So Kim found out Mr. Lee was ready to move. And Kim disappeared to make Mr. Lee follow him instead of coming here. She looked at her father. Did Kim know about the encryption thing? About what Mr. Lee wanted from Mama? Josian Park looked at his daughter. Yes, he said quietly. Kim came to me 3 nights ago. He had intercepted communications. Lee's people moving into position around Seoul. Around this neighborhood. A pause that carried weight. Around this house. And you told Kim to disappear. It wasn't an accusation. It was the last piece of the code read aloud. Her father held her gaze. I told him to buy us time. How much time did he buy? Enough to get your mother out of Seoul. He looked at Victoria. That was the plan. Kim draws Lee's attention west. I move you and Sua to the Jeju house tonight. Quietly. Victoria stood up from the desk. She was not a tall woman but she occupied the room fully. Deep purple dress, unraveling twist, dark eyes that had spent 30 years seeing through things. She looked at her husband the way she looked at a problem that had been coded incorrectly. With the specific patience of someone who was about to fix it. I'm not going to Jeju. Victoria. My son is sitting in a boathouse on the Hangang because he loves me and he did the bravest, most reckless thing he could think of. Her voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. I am not going to an island while he sits there running out of time. That is not a plan I will participate in. Josian Park looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Sua. She had her diary open. She was writing something. What are you writing? He asked. A better plan. She didn't look up. Despite everything, despite the weight of the morning, the name Lee Chong-soo sitting in the air of the room like smoke, something moved across Josian Park's face. Brief. Almost invisible. His daughter was writing a plan in a Hello Kitty diary. And he was not entirely sure it would be worse than his. The better plan took 11 minutes to explain. Sua stood at the desk, her mother seated to her left, her father in the chair against the wall, arms folded, listening with the expression of a man trying to decide if he was impressed or terrified and landing somewhere between both. Mr. Lee is following Kim because Kim is the heir, she began. He thinks if he has Kim he has leverage over Dad. But he doesn't know about the encryption thing. He thinks this is a business negotiation. He thinks he can trade Kim's location for Mama agreeing to sign something. She tapped the diary page. So he's waiting. He's not going to move on Kim until he's ready to make the offer. How do you know that? Sungjin's voice came from the doorway. He had appeared sometime in the last few minutes, drawn up by the phone call, standing now with his silver lapel pin and his charcoal suit and the expression of a man who had decided to stop being surprised. Because of the clock. Sua didn't look up from the diary. Kim drew a clock with no hands. Not a broken clock. No hands means the time hasn't been set yet. Lee hasn't made his move because he hasn't decided on the moment. She looked at Sungjin. He's waiting for something. What is he waiting for? The room looked at Sungjin. He straightened slightly. There is a meeting. Tomorrow evening. A private forum, business figures, some government adjacents. Lee was supposed to attend. It would have given him an alibi for the night. Tomorrow evening. Sua wrote it down. So tonight he's still positioning. He hasn't locked the clock yet. She looked at her mother. Mama, the encryption architecture, can you make it look like you're moving it? Like you're preparing to transfer it somewhere. Victoria's eyes sharpened. You want me to create a ghost transfer? I want Mr. Lee to think you're moving it tonight. Out of fear. Like you found out he was coming and you panicked. Sua looked up. If he thinks the asset is moving he has to move faster than he planned. He stops waiting for tomorrow. He reaches out tonight. And when he reaches out, Victoria said slowly, following the thread, we know his channel. We know his contact method. We know exactly how he planned to approach this. And we record it, Sua said. All of it. Silence. Then Sungjin very quietly. She's 7. I'm aware, said Josian Park. He was looking at his daughter with an expression that had stopped trying to categorize itself. Victoria was already turning back to the monitors. I can build the ghost transfer in 2 hours, she said. It'll look real to anyone who isn't me. It only needs to look real to Lee, Sua said. For about 4 hours. What happens after 4 hours? Her father asked. She looked at him. Kim comes home. The ghost transfer went live at 8:47 that evening. Victoria had changed into a white silk blouse and wide-leg ivory trousers, elegant, composed, the visual language of a woman in control, and sat at her monitors with Sungjin standing 6 feet behind her and Josian Park at the window with his phone. Sua sat in the corner chair in a white and lavender dress with small pearl buttons, her diary in her lap, the key at her throat catching the lamplight. They waited. At 9:14 a.m. message came through a channel that had been dormant for 8 years. A private encrypted line that Victoria had not used since before Sua was born. 3 words. We should talk. Victoria's hands stayed perfectly still on the keyboard. She looked at her husband. He nodded once. She looked at Sungjin. He was already recording. She typed back. About what? The reply came in 40 seconds. You know what? Don't move anything else tonight. Let's resolve this cleanly. He's watching the transfer in real time, Victoria said quietly. He has eyes on my system. Can he get in? Josian Park asked. Not even close. She almost smiled. But he doesn't know that. She typed, if you want to talk, talk. A pause. Then the boy is fine. He's been comfortable. This was never about him. It was always about you and what you owe me. The room temperature dropped by several degrees. Josian Park moved from the window toward the desk. Sungjin put a hand on his arm. Stopped him. Josian Park looked at the hand on his arm and then at Sungjin's face, and after a moment, a long controlled moment, stayed where he was. Victoria typed. I don't owe you anything. The architecture was mine. The lab was mine. The funding was mine. The infrastructure you used to build it, mine. Courts tend to agree with infrastructure. Then go to court. A longer pause this time. I'd rather not involve courts. I'd rather you sign a co-ownership agreement. Reasonable terms. Generous revenue split. Everyone walks away comfortable. And my son comes home tonight. The moment you sign. Victoria leaned back from the keyboard. She looked at her daughter. Sua had been writing in her diary through the entire exchange. Now she looked up, read something she had written, and tore the page out carefully along the seam. She walked to her mother and placed it on the desk. On it, in her careful hand. Tell him you need to see the agreement before you sign. Ask him to send it. The moment he sends a document, he's admitted to the arrangement. That's evidence. Victoria looked at it. Looked at Sungjin. He was already on the phone with someone, quiet, clipped, the tone of a man setting something in motion. She turned back to the screen and typed. Send me the agreement. I review, then I sign. 41 seconds. A document arrived. Sungjin ended his call. That's enough, he said simply. That's more than enough. Kim Josian came home at 11:38 that night. He walked through the front door of the mansion in a dark navy coat over a charcoal shirt, his hair slightly disheveled, a tiredness around his eyes that hadn't been there 3 days ago. He stopped in the entrance hall. His entire family was standing there. His father, black suit, silver temples, arms folded, the specific expression of a man who had been terrified and was now translating that terror into something that looked like composure. His mother, white silk blouse, ivory trousers, eyes bright in the way that meant she had been holding something in for hours and was about to stop holding it. Sua, white and lavender dress, rose gold beads in her braids, Hello Kitty diary under one arm, standing slightly in front of both parents the way someone stands when they have been the one managing things and haven't quite stepped down from the role yet. Kim looked at her for a long moment. You found me, he said. You left me a map. She tilted her head. A terrible hiding spot, by the way. I had it in 20 minutes. Something broke open in his face, relief, exhaustion, love, and he crossed the entrance hall in 4 strides and picked her up, rose gold and lavender, diary and beads, all of it, held her against his navy coat and didn't say anything for a while. She held on with both arms. The clock had no hands, she said into his shoulder. I know. His voice was rough. I needed you to know I was waiting, that the time wasn't set yet, that there was still room. There was. She pulled back and looked at his face with the frank, assessing gaze she had been deploying all day. You look terrible. I've been in a boathouse for 2 nights. I know. West Bank. Third structure from the river bend. She patted his coat. Upstream, not down. Kim Josian looked at his sister, at the steadiness of her, the diary, the gold key at her throat, the rose gold beads, the whole composed and extraordinary fact of her, and then looked at his parents over her shoulder. His mother's eyes were full. His father had uncrossed his arms. She ran it, his father said quietly. All of it. From the conference room to the ghost transfer. She ran the whole thing. Kim looked back at Sua. The juice box, he said. Tell me about the juice box. I brought snacks to the interrogation. She said it as though this required no further explanation. Honey butter crackers. Strawberry juice for Mr. Ree. Grape for me. And it worked. Everything works better with snacks. She slipped out of his arms and straightened her dress. Also, I told him Mama would figure out the boathouse on her own. Which she did. So, Kim Josian laughed, the real laugh, the wide easy one that made him look like someone's favorite person. And it filled the entrance hall of the mansion the way that particular sound fills a space that has been too quiet for too long. Victoria covered her mouth with one hand. Josian Park looked at the ceiling briefly, in the way of a man communicating something to whatever force had seen fit to give him these specific children. Later that night, after Kim had eaten and the house had exhaled, Sua sat at the kitchen counter in her pajamas, white cotton, tiny purple stars, with her Hello Kitty diary open to a fresh page. Kim sat beside her with a cup of tea, navy coat gone, back to himself. What are you writing? He asked. Everything. She didn't look up. In case I need it later. Need what later? The plan. How it worked. What Mr. Ree's face looked like when I slid the juice box. What the clock with no hands actually meant. She wrote something, considered it. Added a small star in the margin. You always say the most important messages look like nothing. I think the most important plans should be written down too. Kim watched his sister write. Outside the kitchen window Seoul glittered. Enormous, layered, threaded through with the complicated history of a family that carried 2 worlds in its name, and had just been held together, at the critical moment, by a 7-year-old in rose gold silk with a backpack full of honey butter crackers. He reached over and drew a small crescent moon in the corner of her page. She looked at it. I'm okay. She drew a star beneath it. I know. He put his arm around her. She leaned in. They sat like that for a while in the warm kitchen light while the city moved outside. 2 siblings, a shared code, and a diary full of the most important things that looked like nothing. Thank you for watching Black Silk Stories, where every story is stitched from 2 worlds and hits different every single time. If this story found you, it was meant for you. Subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and leave a comment below. We read every single one. Black Silk Stories.